First, we're going to start by cutting up our onions and cutting up our ham steak. We're going to put our onions and our garlic on the stove with 3 tablespoons of butter. Remember, it's not necessary to use your excellent raw butter. If you can find a good pasture organic butter at your supermarket, it's going to be fine. So we're going to put this on the stove and we're going to saute it. And then once you see that the onions are becoming translucent, then we're going to add our spices. Now remember to get the best quality spices that you can. Make sure you get spices that don't have any MSG and that are not irradiated. If you can't find them labeled that way, usually the organic products don't have MSG and are not irradiated. Now what you're also going to find is that you have a little bit of the spices stuck to the bottom. Like I said before, that's perfectly okay because that's when you add the ham now, that's going to give it that smoky flavor that you really want. Now we're going to add our ham. And we're going to stir it in for a few minutes. And now our next step is to add the cream. It's not necessary to use your really good raw cream with this recipe, since you're going to cook it and it's going to come to a boil. And you're just going to add your cream, and then as you're cooking all the ingredients together, you're going to move them around and swirl them until all those spices that are stuck at the bottom of the pot have come up. Now for this recipe, we're going to use a blender. Now it's very important that you let your ingredients cool off after you take them off the stove, because especially if you have a glass blender, it's likely that it may break from the heat. Now, if the ingredients seem a little too thick for your blender, it's all right to add a little bit of water or a little bit of stock so that you can thin it out. It's all going to just dehydrate once we put it back in the pot. Now we're going to put it back on the stove at medium heat, and we're going to add our flour. Always add your coconut flour first. Since it has a lot of fiber, it tends to absorb a lot of the moisture. And then add, that's a ½ cup of coconut flour, by the way, and then add the other ½ cup of rice flour. But as you add the rice flour, stir it. It's going to need to take a consistency of a paste. And then it's sort of going to change color a little bit, and then you'll know that it's ready. Now, as you can see, the consistency is that of a nice thick paste. Now what you're going to do is you're going to spread it out, and we're going to leave it outside for about a ½ an hour until it cools down long enough for us to put it in the refrigerator. After maybe about an hour or two in the refrigerator, it's going to be nice and cool so that we can bread it. All right, now that the paste has cooled down, we're going to use a very small ice cream scoop or melon baller so that we can have a consistent size. You're going to take a scoop in your hand and you're going to roll it so that it's in the shape of a ball. And then whenever you're breading something, it's very important to remember, you should use the flour first and then roll it in the egg, because the flour is actually going to help the egg stick to whatever it is that you're breading. Then once you have the egg evenly covering the croqueta, you're going to throw it back in the flour. I'm using the rice flour to bread these because I like the way that the rice flour gives it a nice texture and it's more crunchy. Now once you've breaded it again. Because rice flour and other flour substitutes don't have the same consistency as wheat, they tend to crack when you fry them, which is perfectly natural. You're going to see that you're going to get a croqueta that's a little cracked. But if you do it twice, then it'll stay nice and firm and crispy above all. Once you're done doing that with all the paste, then we're going to fry them. Ahora lo que hago es que Now remember that when you're frying with coconut oil, using very low heat. This recipe is going to give you about 30 croquetas. And now the only thing we have left to do is invite somebody over that you really love, or just a bunch of friends, and really just enjoy them.
Right there.
Here you go. Try.
Can I get the little one next to the big one?
Get the little one next to the big one.
Okay.
That's the medium-sized one. So until next time, remember that when you cook it with love, it tastes so much better.